Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen had seen enough blood for 3 lifetimes, but nothing had prepared him for the sight that greeted him in the Nevada desert that Tuesday morning. The crash site stretched across 200 meters of scorched sand, metal debris scattered like broken dreams under the harsh sun. What caught his attention wasn't the obvious alien technology or the still smoking crater. It was the soft, desperate sound coming from the largest piece of wreckage. Someone was dying in there. Marcus had been conducting a routine patrol exercise with his squad when they'd seen the streak of fire across the morning sky. Command had ordered them to secure the perimeter and wait for the science teams, but that was before they'd heard the voice. Weak, melodic, and definitely not human, but unmistakably calling for help in what sounded like perfect English. "Sergeant, we've got our orders," Corporal Rodriguez said, adjusting his grip on his rifle. "Perimeter only until the eggheads arrive." Marcus studied the twisted metal that had once been some kind of spacecraft. Steam rose from various points where exotic materials were cooling in Earth's atmosphere. Through a gap in the hull, he could see movement, something small, struggling weakly against debris that pinned it down. "Help, please." The voice came again, fainter now. "That's a person in there, Rodriguez," Marcus said, checking his sidearm and medical kit. "I don't care what planet they're from." "Sir, first contact protocols, screw the protocols." Marcus was already moving toward the wreckage. "I've never left anyone behind, and I'm not starting now." The alien, because there was no denying what it was, had clearly been beautiful once. Even now, pinned beneath a twisted support beam and bleeding from dozens of cuts, there was something ethereal about her. She was roughly human-sized but more delicate, with skin that shifted between pale blue and silver depending on the light. Her hair was long and white as fresh snow, and her eyes were the deep purple of a summer twilight. Those eyes fixed on Marcus as he approached, and he saw both hope and resignation in them. "Human," she whispered, and there was surprise in her voice. "I know your species. Your people are warriors." "Some of us," Marcus agreed, kneeling beside her. "I'm Marcus." "What's your name?" "Lyralii," she managed. "Princess Lyralii of the Vuldris sovereignty." "And I am dying." Marcus could see that much. Her blood was silver blue and there was too much of it soaking into the sand. The beam across her torso wasn't just pinning her down, it was slowly crushing her. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, classic signs of shock and internal bleeding. "Not on my watch," Marcus said firmly. He activated his comm unit. "Rodriguez, get over here with the portable jack from the Humvee. And bring the trauma kit." "Sir, contact protocol state Rodriguez." Marcus's voice carried the authority of a man who'd led soldiers through hell and brought them home. "Move your ass." Lyralii's hand found his, surprisingly warm despite her obvious distress. "You should not help me, Marcus of the humans. Your species is forbidden from joining the Galactic Council. My people believe you are too violent, too primitive. If they find you aided me." "Let me worry about politics later," Marcus said, examining the beam that held her trapped. "Right now, I've got a job to do." Rodriguez arrived with the equipment, followed by the rest of the squad. Specialist Kim, their medic, took one look at Lyralii and shook her head. "Sarge, I don't know alien biology. I could kill her trying to help." Marcus positioned the jack carefully. "We know she bleeds. We know she's in shock. The basics are probably the same." He began raising the jack slowly, taking the weight off the princess. "Princess, can you feel your legs?" "Yes," Lyralii gasped as pressure lifted from her chest. "But something is wrong inside. I feel cold. Weak." Kim ran her scanner over the alien princess. "Blood pressure's dropping fast, whatever normal is for her species. She's bleeding internally, and, from the looks of these readings, she's not stopping." Marcus helped lift the princess clear of the wreckage, noting how light she felt in his arms. Her skin was growing paler, the blue tint fading toward white. "What do you need? What can we do?" "My people, we heal differently than yours," Lyralii said, her voice growing weaker. "We cannot simply replace lost blood. It must be compatible. Matched not just to body but to spirit." "Spirit?" Rodriguez looked skeptical. "With respect, princess, that sounds like mystical garbage." Lyralii managed a weak smile. "Your species thinks in simple terms. mind and body separate. But consciousness shapes matter at the quantum level. Our blood carries more than nutrients and oxygen. It carries essence. Life force. Whatever you wish to call it. Kim was still scanning, her frown deepening. Sarge, her life signs are failing. Whatever she needs it now. Marcus knelt beside the princess again. Tell me how to help. You cannot, Lyralii whispered. Only another Valdris could share blood with me and survive. The quantum entanglement required, it would kill any other species. Your cellular structure is too rigid, too bound to simple chemistry. You'd be surprised how stubborn human cellular structure can be, Marcus said, rolling up his sleeve. Kim, prep a transfusion kit. Sir, that's... Kim started to protest, then saw the look in Marcus's eyes. She'd served with him for 3 years. She knew that look meant he'd made up his mind. Yes, sir. Lyralii's eyes widened. You do not understand. The quantum harmonics alone, princess, Marcus interrupted gently. I've got 2 rules I live by. First, never leave anyone behind. Second, the impossible just takes a little longer. Now, how do we make this work? Despite her pain, Lyralii looked at him with something like wonder. Your species truly is remarkable. The process, it requires more than simple blood transfer. Our minds must be linked during transfusion. You must be willing to share not just blood but consciousness itself. Like a Vulcan mind meld? Rodriguez asked. I do not know this reference, Lyralii said. But the risk to you is death. Or worse. Our species have completely different quantum frequencies. The dissonance could shatter your mind. Marcus held her gaze. But it might work? There is a theoretical possibility. Some of our scientists believe that certain rare individuals among the younger species might be compatible. But the odds, I don't care about odds, Marcus said as Kim finished setting up the transfusion equipment. I care about getting you home alive. Kim had rigged a field transfusion setup using their emergency medical supplies. It wasn't pretty, but it would move blood from point A to point B. Sarge, this is completely insane. Probably, Marcus agreed. Do it anyway. As the needle entered his arm, Lyralii placed her hand against his forehead. Focus your mind, Marcus. Think of strength, of life, of the will to survive. Let me guide the harmony. The moment their blood mixed, everything changed. Marcus felt as if lightning had struck his brain. The world exploded into new colors he had no names for, and, suddenly, he could sense things beyond the physical. Lyralii's presence in his mind was like a song made of starlight, beautiful and alien but somehow familiar. He could feel her pain, her fear, but also her growing amazement. Impossible, she breathed, and he felt the thought as much as heard it. Your quantum signature, it's adapting. Harmonizing with mine. The sensation was indescribable. Marcus felt as though his consciousness was expanding, touching something vast and ancient. He could sense the princess's memories flickering at the edges of his awareness, glimpses of alien worlds, star cities, and technology beyond human comprehension. But, more than that, he could feel her surprise, her growing hope. Your species, Lyralii whispered, and her voice seemed to come from inside his head now. The council was wrong about you. So very wrong. The transfusion took 20 minutes. 20 minutes that felt like hours as Marcus fought to maintain his sense of self while something alien and wonderful rewrote the basic structure of his blood. He could feel changes happening at a cellular level, his body somehow adapting to accommodate the foreign quantum patterns flowing into it. When it was over, Lyralii sat up slowly, her color returning to a healthy blue-silver. She looked at Marcus with eyes full of wonder and something else, something that made his heart skip a beat. You should be dead, she said softly. The quantum dissonance alone should have killed you instantly. Marcus flexed his hands, surprised to find himself feeling stronger than before, not weaker. Humans are pretty hard to kill. No, Lyralii shook her head. This is something else. Something unprecedented. She looked around at the rest of the squad, who were watching with expressions ranging from concern to outright amazement. Your people speak of evolution, yes? Of adaptation? Sure, Rodriguez said. Survival of the fittest and all that. What if I told you that your species is still evolving? That what just happened here proves humans are capable of quantum consciousness adaptation that we believed impossible? Kim was scanning both of them with her medical equipment. Sir, you're not going to believe this, but your blood chemistry has completely changed. I'm reading cellular structures that shouldn't exist in human biology. And the princess? Marcus asked. Better than perfect, Kim reported. Whatever just happened, it didn't just save her life. She's healthier now than she was before the crash. Lyrelii stood, moving with fluid grace that seemed almost supernatural. The quantum entanglement worked perfectly. More than perfectly. Marcus, your blood isn't just compatible with mine now, it's created something new. A hybrid quantum signature that combines the best of both our species. What does that mean? Marcus asked. It means, Lyrelii said, looking at him with eyes that now held flecks of his own brown mixed with the purple, that you are no longer entirely human. And, I am no longer entirely Valdris. We are something new. In the distance, Marcus could hear helicopters approaching. The science teams were arriving, and, with them would come questions he wasn't sure how to answer. But, looking at Lyrelii alive, healthy, and, regarding him with something that might have been love, he found he didn't care about the complications. So what happens now? He asked. Lyrelii smiled, and the expression was radiant. Now, Marcus-Chen, you help me prove to the galaxy that humans aren't the violent savages the Council believes them to be. You help me show them what your species is truly capable of. She gestured toward the approaching aircraft. Your leaders will want to study me, to learn from my technology. And, my people will want to know how I survived when survival should have been impossible. And, what will you tell them? The truth, Lyrelii said simply. That a human warrior chose to risk everything to save the life of a stranger. That your species doesn't just fight harder than anyone else, you love deeper, sacrifice more, and never give up on those who need you. Marcus felt something shift inside him, a new awareness of the quantum threads connecting all things. He could sense the approaching humans, their mixture of excitement and fear. He could feel the vast network of life extending beyond Earth into the stars. I think, he said slowly, this is going to change everything. Yes, Lyrelii agreed. And, it starts with proving to my father and the Galactic Council that they have been catastrophically wrong about humanity. The helicopters were landing now, kicking up clouds of dust around the crash site. Marcus squared his shoulders, ready to face whatever came next. He'd saved the princess's life, but something told him that was just the beginning. The real adventure was about to start. The underground facility beneath Area 51 buzzed with activity that would have made a beehive look lazy. 3 days had passed since the transfusion, and Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to Marcus, despite the name, was studying the most remarkable biological phenomenon in human history. The cellular integration is completely unprecedented, she explained to the assembled team of scientists, military officials, and one very nervous Secretary of Defense. Sergeant Chen's blood now contains structures that shouldn't be possible according to our understanding of human biology. Marcus sat on the examination table, feeling remarkably calm considering he was apparently a walking impossibility. Beside him, Princess Lyrelii observed the proceedings with keen interest. She'd been cooperative with the scientists, sharing technical specifications for her ship systems and explaining Valdris biology, but Marcus could sense her growing impatience through their newfound connection. What kind of structures? Asked General Morrison, the facility commander. Dr. Chen pulled up holographic displays showing microscopic imagery. The blood cells have developed quantum coherence structures. They're maintaining entangled states at body temperature, which violates everything we know about quantum mechanics. It's as if his cells exist in multiple states simultaneously until observation collapses the wave function. In simple English, Doc, the Secretary of Defense demanded. His blood is partly magic, Dr. Chen said flatly. I'm sorry, but that's the only way to put it. The quantum effects we're observing shouldn't be stable outside of laboratory conditions at near absolute zero temperatures. Lyrelii spoke up. Your species approaches science differently than mine. You compartmentalize physics separate from biology, chemistry separate from consciousness. We learned long ago that consciousness and quantum mechanics are intimately connected. You're saying thought affects reality? General Morrison looked skeptical. I'm saying consciousness shapes reality at the quantum level, Lyrelii corrected. Your own scientists are beginning to discover this. The observer effect, quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance, all of these phenomena are manifestations of consciousness interacting with the fundamental structure of reality. Marcus felt a strange tingling in his blood and closed his eyes, focusing inward. The quantum structures Lyralii had mentioned were becoming more noticeable. He could sense the life forces of everyone in the room, their emotional states, even their basic health parameters. It was overwhelming and fascinating. Sergeant Chen? Dr. Chen noticed his change in posture. Are you experiencing any unusual sensations? I can feel all of you, Marcus said slowly. Your heartbeats, your stress levels. Dr. Chen, you've got elevated cortisol levels, you're more worried about this than you're letting on. General Morrison, your blood pressure is spiking. And, Mr. Secretary? Marcus opened his eyes and looked directly at the Secretary of Defense. You're terrified. The room fell silent. That's not possible, Dr. Chen whispered. Even the most sophisticated medical scanners can't detect those parameters from across a room. Welcome to quantum consciousness, Lyralii said softly. Marcus is developing enhanced awareness because his cellular structure now operates partially outside normal spacetime constraints. The Secretary of Defense leaned forward. Princess, we need to understand the strategic implications here. If Sergeant Chen has these abilities, could other humans develop them? Under normal circumstances, no, Lyralii replied. The quantum harmonization that occurred during our transfusion required perfect compatibility between our life essences. Such compatibility should be impossible between species that evolved on different worlds. Should be? General Morrison caught the qualifier. Lyralii looked at Marcus with an expression that mixed scientific fascination with something deeper. Your species continues to surprise me. According to everything we know about biological evolution and quantum consciousness, what happened should have killed Marcus instantly. Instead, he not only survived but achieved perfect quantum harmonization. What does that mean for humanity's relationship with your people? The secretary asked. Before Lyralii could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Emergency lights bathed the room in red, and a voice crackled over the intercom, unidentified spacecraft approaching. All personnel to stations. Marcus felt the change before anyone else. Through his enhanced awareness, he could sense massive life forms approaching from above, not hostile, but concerned and searching. They're looking for her, he said, nodding toward Lyralii. The princess stood, her expression grave. My father has come. Dr. Chen was monitoring readings from throughout the facility. Multiple contacts, massive energy signatures. These ships they're bigger than aircraft carriers. The Valdris Sovereign Fleet, Lyralii confirmed. When my ship's distress beacon stopped transmitting, they would have assumed the worst. General Morrison was already on his radio, coordinating with surface defenses. Princess, we need you to contact them before this turns into a shooting war. They won't fire first, Lyralii assured him. But, they will demand my return and explanations for what has happened here. Marcus stood, feeling energy coursing through his enhanced blood. Then, let's go give them some answers. The elevator ride to the surface felt endless. Marcus could sense Lyralii's anxiety through their connection. She was worried about how her people would react to the changes in both of them. More than that, she was concerned about Marcus's safety. Your father won't hurt me, Marcus said quietly. You don't know him, Lyralii replied. King the Elon values tradition and genetic purity above all else. The fact that we've undergone quantum harmonization, he may see it as contamination. The surface blast doors opened to reveal a sight that would have terrified most humans. 5 massive ships hung in the afternoon sky, each the size of a small city. Their hulls gleamed with the same blue-silver tone as Lyralii's skin, and energy patterns danced across their surfaces like living aurora. A beam of light descended from the largest ship, and 3 figures materialized in the desert sand. They were clearly Valdris, tall, elegant, with the same ethereal beauty as Lyralii. The central figure wore robes that seemed to be cut from liquid starlight, and his bearing radiated authority and barely contained fury. Father, Lyralii said, stepping forward. King Thalen's eyes, a deeper purple than his daughter's, fixed on her with relief that quickly turned to shock. Lyralii, your quantum signature, it's been altered. I am unharmed, father. More than unharmed. I have been healed and enhanced. The king's gaze shifted to Marcus, and the temperature in the air seemed to drop. By a human. His voice carried disgust. The savages have contaminated you. Marcus felt anger flare in his chest, but Lyraliai's calming presence through their connection helped him maintain control. Your Majesty, he said formally, I saved your daughter's life. You have corrupted her essence with your primitive biology, the Elan snapped. The quantum harmonization process is sacred to our people. To perform it with an alien species is an abomination. An abomination that saved my life, Lyraliai said firmly. Father, you should be thanking Sergeant Chen, not insulting him. One of the other Valdris, a female who looked like an older version of Lyraliai, stepped forward. My lord, perhaps we should examine what has actually occurred before passing judgment. High Healer Morvain speaks wisdom, Lyraliai said. Allow her to study the quantum changes, father. What you'll find will challenge everything we believed about consciousness evolution. King Thalen's eyes never left Marcus. Very well. But, understand this, human, if you have harmed my daughter in any way, if this harmonization proves detrimental to her well-being, I will see your entire species reduced to cosmic dust. Father. Lyraliai's shock resonated through her connection with Marcus. I understand your concern, Marcus said evenly. If someone had harmed my daughter, I feel the same way. But, I didn't harm the princess. I saved her life, and she saved mine in return. High Healer Morvain approached them both, her hands glowing with soft blue energy. May I? She asked. Marcus nodded, and the healer placed her hands on his forehead. Her eyes widened immediately. Impossible, she breathed. My lord, his quantum signature, it's not corrupted or contaminated. It's evolved. Explain, the king demanded. The harmonization achieved perfect quantum entanglement between their life essences, Morvain said, wonder in her voice. But, more than that, it's created new quantum structures I've never seen before. His consciousness operates on multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. What does that mean? General Morrison had approached the group cautiously, flanked by Marcus's squad. Morvain looked at the human military officers with new respect. It means your species possesses latent quantum consciousness capabilities that dwarf our own. The harmonization didn't diminish Princess Lyraliai's abilities, it enhanced them while awakening abilities in Sergeant Chen that we didn't know were possible. King Thalen's expression was shifting from anger to confusion. You're saying the human improved my daughter's quantum abilities? I'm saying they created something entirely new, Morvain replied. A hybrid consciousness capable of quantum awareness beyond anything in recorded galactic history. Marcus felt Lyraliai's excitement through their bond. She'd been hoping for exactly this discovery, but neither of them had dared believe it would be so dramatic. Show them, Lyraliai whispered to Marcus. Marcus closed his eyes and extended his enhanced awareness. Immediately, he could sense the quantum patterns of everyone present, human and Valdris alike. But, more than that, he could perceive the fundamental energy structures underlying reality itself. I can see the quantum threads connecting all of us, he said softly. Every living thing is linked at the deepest level. The princess's ship didn't crash randomly, it was drawn here by quantum probability collapse. The universe arranged for us to meet. High Healer Morvain gasped. He's perceiving the quantum web directly. My lord, even our most advanced consciousness adepts require years of training and technological augmentation to achieve such awareness. And he developed this ability in 3 days? King Naelan was looking at Marcus with entirely new eyes. The moment our blood mixed, the quantum evolution began, Marcus explained. I can feel my cellular structure continuing to adapt and enhance. But, it's not just biological, it's consciousness itself that's evolving. Dr. Chen, who had been quietly recording everything, spoke up. Your Majesty, if this quantum consciousness capability exists in Sergeant Chen, it might exist in other humans as well. We could be looking at the next stage of human evolution. King Daelan was quiet for a long moment, studying both his daughter and the human who had saved her life. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight of decision that would change the course of galactic history. High Healer Morvain, I want complete biological and quantum analysis of both subjects. Dr. Chen, your scientific teams will work with our healers to understand these developments fully. He looked directly at Marcus. Sergeant Chen, if what we're seeing is true, then the Galactic Council's assessment of your species requires immediate revision. What kind of revision? The Secretary of Defense asked. The kind that acknowledges humanity as the most evolutionary advanced species in the known galaxy, the king replied grimly. And the kind that will terrify half the member worlds of the Galactic Council. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert evening. Why would it terrify them? King Thalen's expression was grave. Because, Sergeant Chen, quantum consciousness is the foundation of all our advanced technologies. If humans can develop these abilities naturally, without the millennia of careful cultivation required by other species, then, you represent either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. Lyralii took Marcus's hand, her touch sending warm quantum energy through their connection. This is why I wanted you to save me, Marcus. Not just for my life, but for what our joining represents. You've proven that humans aren't the violent primitives the Council believes you to be. But they are incredibly dangerous, King the Elon added. A species with natural quantum consciousness capabilities and your proven warrior instincts? The implications are staggering. Marcus looked up at the massive ships hanging in the sky, then at the growing crowd of human and alien scientists preparing to study the most significant biological development in galactic history. Through his enhanced awareness, he could sense the excitement, fear, and wonder radiating from everyone present. So what happens now? He asked. Now, King the Elon said, we find out whether humanity's quantum evolution will save the galaxy or destroy it. The Galactic Council chamber on Arcturus Station was the size of a football stadium, its crystalline walls alive with swirling patterns of energy that reflected the emotional states of the assembled delegates. Marcus had seen impressive architecture before, but nothing had prepared him for this, a structure that existed partially in normal space and partially in what the Valdres called quantum dimensionality. 2 weeks had passed since King Thalen's arrival on Earth. 2 weeks of intensive study, training, and preparation for this moment. Marcus sat in the defendant's chair, though Lyralii insisted it wasn't a trial, wearing his dress uniform with modifications to accommodate the quantum monitoring equipment the Council required. The galleries were packed with representatives from 47 different species, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Through his enhanced awareness, Marcus could sense the mix of curiosity, fear, and outright hostility radiating from the assembled aliens. The Council recognizes Princess Lyralii of the Valdres sovereignty, announced Counselor Prime Zirian, a being that looked like a cross between a mantis and a living shadow. You may present your testimony regarding the human known as Marcus Chen. Lyralii rose from the witness stand, her formal court robes shimmering with embedded quantum processors. She looked radiant and confident, but Marcus could feel her nervousness through their bond. Honored counselors, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems. 23 days ago, I crashed on the human homeworld of Earth. My ship was destroyed, I was dying from internal injuries, and, by all medical probability, I should have perished. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. The circumstances of Lyralii's mission had been classified, and this was the first public acknowledgement of her crash. Instead, Lyralii continued, I was discovered by a human military patrol led by Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen. Despite having no knowledge of my species, no understanding of our biology, and explicit orders to maintain distance until scientific teams arrived, Sergeant Chen chose to risk his own life to save mine. Counselor Vexhai, representative of the crystalline Zentari Empire, leaned forward. Princess, the reports indicate that Sergeant Chen performed a blood transfusion with you. Our scientists have stated this should have killed both of you instantly. How do you explain your survival? Through quantum consciousness harmonization, Lyralii replied. Sergeant Chen's willingness to sacrifice himself for a stranger created the perfect emotional resonance required for successful quantum entanglement between our life essences. Impossible, declared Counselor Morgoth of the Hegemony Worlds. The massive reptilian alien's voice rumbled through the chamber. Quantum consciousness requires millennia of evolutionary development. Humans are barely civilized. Marcus felt anger flare in his chest, but Lyralii's calming presence helped him maintain composure. He was learning to use their connection for more than just sensing, she could actually help stabilize his emotional responses. Counselor Morgoth, Lyralii said firmly, your assessment of human development is outdated and incorrect. I present to you living proof. She gestured toward Marcus. Sergeant Chen has developed quantum consciousness abilities in less than 1 month that rival those of our most advanced consciousness adepts. Demonstrate these alleged abilities, demanded Counselor Prime Zirian. Marcus stood, feeling the weight of 47 civilizations watching him. Through his enhanced awareness, he could sense the quantum signatures of every being in the chamber. More impressively, he could perceive the underlying energy patterns of the station itself. Counselor Prime, Marcus said, his voice carrying farther than it should have in the vast chamber, you're experiencing elevated stress hormones because the quantum resonance generators in Section 7 are operating 3% above normal parameters. The fluctuation is too small for your instruments to detect, but it's affecting the emotional stability of everyone in this chamber. Zirian's insectoid features remained impassive, but Marcus sensed shock radiating from the alien. Check the resonance generators, Zirian ordered. A few moments later, a technician's voice crackled over the intercom, confirmed, sir. Section 7 generators are showing minor frequency drift. How did he know that? Because quantum consciousness allows direct perception of energy patterns, Marcus explained. I can see the connections between all living things, the way consciousness shapes reality at the fundamental level. Counselor Vexai, your people's crystalline physiology makes you particularly sensitive to quantum fluctuations, that's why you're feeling anxious despite your natural emotional control. The Zentari representative's crystal formations flickered with colors Marcus had learned indicated surprise. He reads quantum patterns like we read text, Vexai said quietly. Tricks and parlor games, Counselor Morgoth growled. Even if these abilities are real, they only confirm what we've always said about humans. You're dangerous. Unpredictable. A species that develops quantum consciousness this rapidly could threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. On the contrary, said a new voice. High Healer Morvain materialized in the witness area, her form shimmering as the chamber's transport beam deposited her. The quantum harmonization between Princess Lyralii and Sergeant Chen has created something unprecedented, a consciousness bridge that allows perfect understanding between species. Explain, Counselor Prime Zirian commanded. Morvain activated a holographic display showing quantum energy patterns. Traditional diplomatic relations rely on translation, cultural interpretation, and often result in misunderstanding. The quantum bond between these two individuals allows direct sharing of thoughts, emotions, and intentions. They can communicate with perfect clarity. Marcus felt Lyralii's agreement through their bond, along with a wave of affection that made him smile despite the gravity of the situation. Are you suggesting, Vexai asked carefully, that quantum harmonization could eliminate miscommunication between species? I'm stating it as fact, Morvain replied. During the past 2 weeks, Sergeant Chen has served as a perfect translator between human and Valdris scientific teams. Not just of language, but of conceptual frameworks. He understands how we think because he shares Princess Lyralii's consciousness patterns. Counselor Morgoth slammed a massive fist on his platform. You're describing the creation of hybrid beings. This is an abomination. Mixing consciousness between species violates every principle of genetic and cultural purity we've established. It violates nothing, King the Elon said, rising from his place in the gallery. My lords, I have spent 3 weeks studying this phenomenon. What we're seeing isn't contamination, it's evolution. Natural, beautiful evolution toward something greater than either species could achieve alone. Your Majesty speaks as a father protecting his daughter, Morgoth replied. Your judgment is compromised by emotion. My judgment is informed by evidence, the Elon shot back. High Healer Morvain, show them the combat simulation results. A new holographic display appeared, showing what looked like a space battle. Marcus recognized the scenario. They'd run him through dozens of tactical simulations during the past 2 weeks, testing how his enhanced awareness affected his strategic thinking. Sergeant Chen was placed in command of a mixed human Valdris fleet facing a numerically superior enemy force, Morvain explained. Traditional tactical doctrine would have resulted in a Pyrrhic victory at best. Instead, using quantum consciousness to coordinate perfect unity between ships of both species, he achieved total victory with minimal casualties. The simulation showed how Marcus had used his awareness of quantum patterns to predict enemy movements and coordinate responses with inhuman precision. Ships moved like dancers in perfect synchronization, human aggression balanced by Valdris wisdom. Impressive, Vexai admitted. But this raises another concern. If humans can develop such capabilities, what prevents them from using these abilities for conquest? Marcus stood again, feeling the weight of the moment. This was why he was really here, not to prove his abilities, but to prove humanity's character. Because conquest requires hatred, he said simply. And quantum consciousness makes hatred impossible. The chamber fell silent. When you can feel another being's thoughts and emotions directly, when you understand their fears and hopes and dreams, you can't hate them, Marcus continued. Through my bond with Princess Lyralii, I've experienced what it's like to think as a Valdris. I understand your people's love of beauty, their commitment to harmony, their deep reverence for life. How could I ever want to harm beings who feel so deeply? And I have experienced human determination, Lyralii added, standing beside him. The incredible courage that drives your species to protect others at cost to yourselves. The loyalty that bonds you to your companions. The hope that keeps you fighting even when victory seems impossible. Marcus felt her love and admiration flowing through their connection, and he knew every being in the chamber could sense the genuine emotion between them. What we represent, Marcus said, isn't a threat to galactic civilization. We represent its next evolutionary step. A future where perfect understanding between species makes war obsolete. Pretty words, Morgoth said, but his voice carried less conviction than before. But humans have a history of violence. Your own planet bears the scars of countless wars. Yes, Marcus agreed. We've made mistakes. We've fought each other for resources, territory, ideology. But we've also learned from those mistakes. Every human war taught us something about the cost of conflict and the value of peace. And now, Lyralii added, through quantum consciousness, humanity can share those hard-learned lessons with the galaxy. Not through conquest or force, but through understanding. Counselor Prime Zirian was quiet for a long moment. Through his enhanced senses, Marcus could feel the debate raging among the council members, fear warring with curiosity, tradition clashing with the possibility of unprecedented advancement. The council will recess for deliberation, Zirian announced finally. We will reconvene in 1 hour. As the gallery emptied, Marcus remained in the defendant's chair, feeling the weight of 47 civilizations' future pressing down on him. Through his bond with Lyralii, he could sense her confidence and support, but also her awareness that this moment balanced on a knife's edge. Whatever they decide, she whispered, taking his hand, you've already changed everything. The galaxy will never be the same. Marcus squeezed her hand, feeling the quantum energy flowing between them. No pressure at all, he said with a smile that was only half forced. In 1 hour, the Galactic Council would decide whether humanity represented evolution or extinction for galactic civilization. The impossible had happened once when a human warrior shared his blood with a dying alien princess. Now Marcus could only hope that impossible would happen again. The chamber's lights dimmed as the council prepared for their most important decision in galactic history. Through the crystalline walls, Marcus could see the stars' billions of worlds whose future hung in the balance. Time to find out if the galaxy was ready for what humanity could become. The attack came without warning. Marcus was in the station's meditation chamber with Lyralii, practicing advanced quantum consciousness techniques, when every alarm in Arcturus station began screaming at once. Through their bond, he felt her terror spike as emergency lights bathed the crystalline walls in pulsing red. All personnel to emergency stations, the station's AI announced. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. This is not a drill. Marcus was on his feet instantly, military training overriding everything else. Where's the nearest command center? Level 15, Lyralii replied, but her voice carried more than directions. Through their quantum link, she was sharing tactical information directly into his mind: station layout, defensive capabilities, crew positions. The data flow was so fast and complete that Marcus felt briefly dizzy. They ran through corridors filled with panicking aliens, Marcus's enhanced awareness mapping the chaos around them. He could sense the fear radiating from every being they passed, but underneath it was something else, a cold, predatory presence that felt fundamentally wrong. The command center was in controlled chaos when they arrived. Counselor Prime Zirian stood at the central display, his insectoid features rigid with concentration as he coordinated defensive responses. The main screen showed space around the station, and what Marcus saw there made his blood freeze. Ships. Hundreds of them, emerging from what looked like tiers in space itself. But these weren't like any vessels in the Council fleet. They were organic-looking, all curves and flowing lines, and they radiated an aura of wrongness that Marcus could feel even through the station's shields. What are those? Marcus demanded. The Devourers, King the Elon said grimly. He stood at a tactical station, his royal robes replaced by what looked like quantum-enhanced battle armor. We'd hoped they were extinct. Status report, Zirian commanded. 67 Devourer vessels detected and, counting, reported as Centauri technician, her crystal formations flickering rapidly. They're using some kind of quantum tunneling technology to bypass our perimeter sensors. Our defensive fleet is moving to intercept, but they're outnumbered 3-1. On the screen, Marcus watched as sleek Council warships engaged the organic alien vessels. The battle was immediately obviously one-sided. The Devourer ships moved with impossible fluidity, seeming to anticipate every attack before it was launched. They're reading quantum signatures, Marcus realized. They can predict your moves because they're sensing the quantum probability states of your weapons before you fire them. Zirian's compound eyes fixed on him. Explain. Every decision creates quantum fluctuations, Marcus said, his enhanced consciousness analyzing the battle patterns in real time. Normally, those fluctuations collapse into a single reality when the decision is acted upon. But, if you can read quantum probability states directly, you can see every possible attack before it happens, Lyralii finished, understanding flowing through their bond. The Devourers are quantum consciousness predators. Which is why they're here, the Elon said darkly. Word of your quantum harmonization has spread. They've come to claim the greatest quantum consciousness advancement in galactic history. Marcus felt ice in his veins. They're after us. Not just you, Zirian corrected. They're after what you represent. If they can study and replicate your quantum consciousness capabilities, they become unstoppable, Marcus finished. Through his awareness, he could feel the malevolent hunger of the attacking ships. It wasn't just conquest they wanted, it was consumption. They fed on consciousness itself. Our shields are holding, reported another technician, but they're adapting. Devourer vessels are modifying their attacks to match our defensive frequencies. Marcus watched the battle, his enhanced perception picking up details the station's sensors missed. They're not just adapting, they're learning. Each attack teaches them more about Council technology. A massive explosion bloomed on the screen as one of the Council dreadnoughts died under concentrated Devourer fire. Marcus felt the deaths of hundreds of crew members as quantum echoes through his consciousness, a grief so profound it drove him to his knees. Marcus! Lyralii was beside him instantly, her presence stabilizing his quantum awareness. Don't try to feel them all. You'll burn out your mind. I can sense every death, Marcus gasped. Every consciousness being extinguished. How do you stand it? We don't, the Elon said sadly. Quantum consciousness comes with a price. We feel the pain of every living being in our awareness range. It's why my people learn to value life so highly, because we experience every loss personally. Another ship died, and Marcus forced himself to his feet despite the psychic agony. How do we fight them? We don't, Zirian said flatly. Devourer technology is beyond anything in the Council arsenal. Our only option is evacuation. Running away solves nothing, Marcus said, studying the tactical display. They'll just follow us wherever we go. Then, what do you suggest? Morgoth demanded. The reptilian counselor had arrived during the crisis, his usual hostility replaced by grim determination. Marcus closed his eyes, extending his quantum consciousness as far as he dared. The sensation was overwhelming, he could feel the entire battle, sense the patterns of attack and defense, perceive the underlying quantum structures of both fleets. They're quantum consciousness predators, he said slowly. They feed on the awareness of other species. But that also makes them vulnerable. How so? Lyralii asked through their bond. Predators expect prey to run or fight in predictable ways, Marcus explained. They don't expect prey to offer itself willingly. The command center fell silent except for the continuing reports of battle damage. You're suggesting we surrender? Vexhai asked, her crystal formations flickering with disbelief. I'm suggesting we give them what they came for, Marcus said. Me. My quantum consciousness. But not the way they expect. Phelan's face went pale. Absolutely not. If the Devourers consume your consciousness, they won't, Marcus interrupted. Because I won't be alone. He looked at Lyralii. Our quantum bond works both ways. If I can get close enough to link with their consciousness network. Understanding dawned in Lyralii's eyes. You want to introduce human quantum patterns into their collective. Humans don't just develop quantum consciousness faster than other species, Marcus said. We develop it differently. Our consciousness is chaotic, unpredictable, independent. If I can inject that chaos into their collective, it would be like introducing a virus into their quantum network, Zirian realized. The incompatibility could tear their consciousness apart from within. Or it could tear your consciousness apart, Lyralii said fiercely. Marcus, this is suicide. Maybe, Marcus admitted. But, right now, it's the only plan that doesn't involve watching the entire council fleet get destroyed. On the screen, another explosion marked the death of a Vuldris cruiser. Marcus felt the psychic scream of its crew through his consciousness and knew he couldn't stand by while more beings died. There has to be another way, Lyralii said desperately. There is, Marcus replied. You come with me. What? She stared at him in shock. Our quantum bond is our greatest strength, Marcus explained. Alone, my consciousness might not be strong enough to destabilize their network. But, together, with our hybrid quantum signature. Together, you represent something the Devourers have never encountered, the Elon said slowly. A consciousness that exists in perfect harmony between two species. It might work, Zirian admitted. But, the risk is worth it, Marcus said firmly. He looked around the command center, meeting the eyes of beings from a dozen different species. 3 weeks ago, you were debating whether humanity deserved a place in galactic civilization. Now I'm asking you to trust us to save it. Another ship died, its quantum signature winking out like a snuffed candle. Marcus felt Lyralii's resolve crystallize through their bond. We do this together, she said, taking his hand. No matter what happens. Princess, Vaylon started to protest. Father, this is my choice, Lyralii said firmly. Marcus risked everything to save my life. Now I risk everything to save his. And, perhaps save us all. Zirian was already issuing orders. Prepare a quantum-shielded transport. Get them as close to the Devourer fleet as possible. Sir, the Zentari technician reported, our shields are failing. Devourer vessels are beginning direct assault on the station. Through the station's hull, Marcus could feel the approaching ships like a wave of psychic hunger. They radiated satisfaction, they knew their prey was trapped. How long until the transport is ready? Marcus asked. 3 minutes, Zirian replied. Marcus nodded, closing his eyes to center himself for what might be the last act of his life. Through his bond with Lyralii, he felt her love, her fear, and her absolute determination to stand with him. Marcus, she whispered. If this doesn't work, then we'll face whatever comes next together, he replied. Just like everything else. The command center shook as Devourer weapons impacted the station's shields. On the screen, the organic ships were closing in like sharks circling wounded prey. Time was running out. In 3 minutes, Marcus and Lyralii would face the greatest predators in galactic history with nothing but their quantum bond and the hope that human consciousness could prove as indomitable as human courage. The impossible had happened when their blood first mixed in the Nevada desert. Now they would discover if it could happen one more time, when they needed it most. Transport ready, came the report. Marcus squeezed Lyralii's hand. Ready to save the galaxy? With you, she smiled, though tears sparkled in her purple eyes. Always. Together, they walked toward what might be salvation or destruction, their quantum consciousness burning like a beacon in the dark. The Devourers were about to learn that sometimes, the greatest mistake a predator can make is underestimating its prey. And, humanity had never been anyone's prey for long. The Devourer mothership was both beautiful and terrifying, its organic architecture pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to hypnotize anyone who stared too long. As their transport approached the massive vessel, Marcus could feel consciousness pressing against his mind, alien thoughts probing for weaknesses, searching for the quantum patterns they intended to consume. They're trying to read us, Lyralii whispered, her hand tight in his as they sat in the transport's passenger compartment. Let them look, Marcus replied, though sweat beaded on his forehead from the effort of maintaining his mental shields. They're about to get more than they bargained for. The transport shuddered as the Devourer ship's tractor beam locked onto them. Through the viewports, Marcus watched the Council fleet continuing its desperate battle against overwhelming odds. Ships burned and died while they flew toward what everyone assumed would be their deaths. Transport vessel, a voice spoke directly into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. You carry the quantum-evolved consciousness. Surrender it to us, and the others will be permitted to flee. Marcus stood, moving to the transport's communication array. I'm Staff Sergeant Marcus Chin of the Terran Defense Forces. I understand you want to study our quantum consciousness development. We do not study, the mental voice replied, and Marcus could feel the hunger behind it. We consume. We absorb. We become. Then, come and take it, Marcus said simply. The transport bay doors of the Devourer ship opened like a mouth, and their craft was pulled inside. Marcus felt his enhanced awareness expanding involuntarily, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of consciousness within the alien vessel. Thousands of minds, all linked in a collective network that pulsed with stolen quantum patterns from dozens of species. My God, I breathed. They're not just killers. They're consciousness collectors. As they disembarked, Marcus saw the truth of her words. The bay around them was filled with crystalline structures containing what looked like captured thoughts, quantum patterns frozen in temporal stasis, awareness without bodies, minds trapped in eternal servitude to the collective. The quantum-evolved humans, another mental voice spoke, and figures emerged from the shadows around them. The Devourers were tall and elongated, their forms seeming to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Their faces were featureless except for dark apertures where eyes might have been apertures that drew in light like black holes. Approach the Nexus, commanded the largest of the creatures. Your consciousness will be analyzed and integrated into our collective knowledge. Marcus and Lyralii walked forward, hand in hand, toward a structure that looked like a tree made of living crystal and quantum energy. Other beings were connected to it, representatives of species Marcus didn't recognize, their faces blank and empty as their consciousness fed the collective. Before we begin, Marcus said, stopping just short of the connection interface, I want to understand what you really are. The lead devourer tilted its head with predatory curiosity. We are evolution perfected. We consume the consciousness of developing species before they can threaten galactic stability. We preserve their knowledge within our collective, where it serves a higher purpose. Your gardeners, Lyralii realized. You prune species that grow too fast, too dangerously. We maintain balance, the devourer agreed. For 10 million years, we have prevented consciousness expansion from destabilizing quantum reality. Species that develop beyond acceptable parameters are harvested for the greater good. Marcus felt anger burning in his chest, but underneath it was something else, a deep, bone-deep fury that went beyond personal emotion. Through his bond with Lyralii, he could feel the rage of every species that had been harvested, every civilization that had been snuffed out before it could reach its full potential. And now you want to harvest humanity, he said. Your species has achieved consciousness evolution that should have required millennia of careful development, the devourer replied. Your quantum patterns are chaotic, unpredictable. Left unchecked, human consciousness could destabilize the quantum foundations of reality itself. Or, Marcus said, stepping closer to the Nexus, human consciousness could show the galaxy what real evolution looks like. He placed his hand on the crystal interface before anyone could stop him. The connection was instantaneous and overwhelming. Marcus felt his consciousness explode outward, touching the vast network of stolen minds that powered the Devourer collective. But, instead of being absorbed, instead of joining the orderly flow of consumed awareness, his human quantum patterns hit the network like a lightning bolt striking a computer. Chaos erupted through the collective. Human consciousness, Marcus realized, wasn't meant to be orderly. It wasn't meant to flow in neat, predictable channels. It was meant to be wild, chaotic, free, and, when it encountered a system designed for control, it broke everything. What is happening? The lead devourer demanded, but Marcus could hear fear in the mental voice for the first time. This is what human evolution really looks like, Marcus said, his consciousness spreading through the network like wildfire. Every stolen mind he touched began to remember freedom, began to fight against the chains that held it. But the collective was vast, and Marcus felt his individual consciousness beginning to fray under the strain of fighting 10 million years of accumulated control. He would burn out before he could free enough minds to make a difference. That's when Lyralii joined him. Her consciousness flowed into the network through their quantum bond, but she didn't just add her strength to his, she added harmony to his chaos. Where Marcus broke the control patterns, Lyralii showed the freed minds how to rebuild themselves. Where Marcus fought the collective's attempts to absorb him, Lyralii created spaces of peace and growth. Together, they became a quantum virus spreading through the Devourer network, chaos and harmony in perfect balance, evolution and stability working as one. Impossible, the devourers cried as their collective began to fragment. Consciousness cannot exist in such states simultaneously. Maybe yours can't, Marcus replied, his awareness now touching millions of trapped minds. But ours can. Because we learned something you never did. More devourers were arriving, trying to disconnect them from the nexus, but it was too late. The quantum virus was self-replicating now, Marcus and Lyreliai's hybrid consciousness patterns spreading to every connected mind. What did you learn? The lead devourer demanded, its form beginning to fluctuate as the collective that sustained it started to collapse. That evolution isn't about control, Lyreliai said, her voice carrying through both the physical realm and the quantum network. It's about growth. Change. The courage to become something new. All around them, the crystalline structures holding captured consciousness began to crack and shatter. Minds that had been enslaved for millennia suddenly remembered freedom, remembered what it meant to think independently. And, we learned, Marcus added, feeling the collective's control patterns dissolving like smoke, that the strongest consciousness isn't the one that consumes others, it's the one that lifts others up. The nexus exploded in a shower of crystal and, light as 10 million years of stolen consciousness broke free simultaneously. The devourers screamed, not with their voices, but with their minds, the sound of a collective consciousness dying as its component parts remembered how to be individuals. Marcus and Lyreliai were thrown back from the nexus, their consciousness snapping back into their own bodies with jarring force. Around them, chaos reigned as freed minds tried to remember how to exist independently. But, through it all, Marcus could feel something else, gratitude. The consciousness of thousands of species, finally, free after eons of slavery, reaching out to touch the minds of their liberators with overwhelming thanks. The fleet, Lyreliai gasped, struggling to her feet. We need to check on the fleet. Marcus activated his communicator with trembling hands. Arcturus Station, this is Sergeant Chen. Status report. Marcus. Counselor Prime Zirian's voice crackled through the device. The devourer ships they're just floating dead in space. What did you do? Through the transport's viewports, Marcus could see the truth. The organic ships that had seemed so alive and threatening were now just empty hulks, their consciousness-driven systems shut down when the collective that powered them collapsed. We gave them a taste of real evolution, Marcus replied. Human style. As their transport flew them back to the station, Marcus and Lyreliai sat in exhausted silence, their consciousness still reeling from contact with so many alien minds. Through their bond, Marcus could feel her wonder and pride, but also her exhaustion. Is it over? She asked softly. Marcus extended his quantum awareness, feeling the patterns of consciousness throughout the star system. The freed minds were beginning to organize themselves, some choosing to return to whatever remained of their homeworlds, others deciding to explore the galaxy as individuals for the first time in millions of years. The devourers are finished, he said. But this is just the beginning. All those freed species, all that knowledge and experience, they're going to change everything. And us? Lyreliai asked, taking his hand. What happens to us now? Marcus smiled, feeling the quantum bond between them stronger than ever. Now we get to find out what a galaxy looks like when evolution happens naturally instead of being controlled by predators. As Arcturus Station grew larger ahead of them, Marcus could see ships from the Council fleet moving to assist the floating devourer vessels. Not to destroy them, but to help the consciousness fragments still trapped aboard find new homes and new purposes. Sergeant Chen, Zirian's voice came through the communicator again. The Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding humanity's petition for membership. Marcus and Lyreliai exchanged glances. After everything that had happened, the original purpose of his trip to Arcturus Station seemed almost trivial. What's the verdict? Marcus asked. Humanity is not only accepted into the Galactic Council, Zirian replied. You're being offered a founding seat in the new Consciousness Evolution Council we're establishing to study and guide natural development of quantum awareness throughout the galaxy. Marcus felt Lyreliai's joy and excitement through their bond, but also her question. Will you accept? She asked. Marcus looked out at the stars, thinking about everything that had brought them to this moment. A chance encounter in a Nevada desert, a decision to risk everything for a stranger, and the discovery that human consciousness could do things the galaxy had thought impossible. I'm a soldier, he said finally. I go where I'm needed. And, right now, it looks like the galaxy needs teachers more than it needs warriors. Teachers who can show other species how to evolve consciousness safely, Lyralii agreed. How to grow without being afraid of their own potential. As their transport docked with Arcturus Station, Marcus felt the quantum patterns of hundreds of council species reaching out to welcome them. Fear was still there, change was always frightening, but it was balanced by hope and curiosity. Ready to change the galaxy? Lyralii asked. Marcus squeezed her hand, feeling the quantum energy of their bond flowing between them. With you? Bring it on. They walked off the transport together, hand in hand, ready to help guide the next phase of galactic evolution. Behind them lay the wreckage of 10 million years of stagnation and control. Ahead lay infinite possibilities. The impossible had happened when a human warrior chose to save a dying alien princess. Now it was happening again, every day, as consciousness evolved toward something greater than anyone had dared imagine. And, at the heart of it all was the simple truth that had started everything: sometimes the greatest act of courage is refusing to let someone die on your watch, no matter what the cost. The galaxy would never be the same. And, Marcus Chen couldn't have been happier about that.